This episode's brought to you by our great sponsors of the Pacific Northwest Fungo Banner podcast, starting with Max BP, the small ball pitching machine to improve your hand-eye coordination and reaction times while providing an unmatched amount of reps. Max BP has 5 different velocities for fastballs, as well as right-hand and left-hand curveballs. They also have the Pro Machine with additional velocities, right-hand, left-hand curves, sliders, and cutters, as well as a rapid-fire setting for defensive drills. Go check them out at maxbp.com. Also, Safeguard out of the Tri-Cities. Go check them out as they have provided all of the great gear for the Fungo Banners since day one. Go check out Safeguard. And Top Tier Sports, if you're looking for some summer tournaments still, go check them out all over the Pacific Northwest. I even hear they might even have some basketball tournaments here in Ellensburg. Go check out devobats.com for all your wood bat needs out of the Tri-Cities. And if you need your coaches' fungos, they are the company to go see. And new to the podcast, AstroTurf. AstroTurf's Diamond League Series is now the official synthetic turf of Major League Baseball, trusted to perform at all most elite level of the sport and loved by everyone. Go check them out if you're looking to renovate your facility.
Being a Northwest guy is you're raising a batting cage, you're raising an indoor facility, you're taking ground balls off of, you know how to work in limited space.
Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, and I know I'm biased because I'm a Northwest guy, but I will take a Northwest guy over somebody from another area any day of the week because I just think they're tougher. I just think they're tougher guys.
I think that's one of the best things about baseball is it still is a way that you can really develop toughness and develop, loyalty and all those kinds of things that we want out of young men in particular.
Welcome to the Pacific Northwest Fungo Banter podcast, where we highlight all of the great coaches of the Pacific Northwest. Now, here are your hosts, Eric Sorensen, Jason Jarrett, and Kelly Gow.
Hey, welcome back, Fungo Banner fans, to, as always, another episode of your Pacific Northwest Fungo Banner podcast. I'm Eric Sorensen here. Going to be joined by Jason and Kelly any moment now as we bring you part 2 with Ian Sanderson, the head coach of Tacoma Community College. And hopefully you checked out part 1. You can catch the full episode on YouTube. And you can always follow us on our social media. We're on all of the, the normal ones. Just search Pacific Northwest Fungo Banner. Make sure you go to our YouTube page and follow us on there. Subscribe to that channel. Because the way we're doing it this year, as we said before, we're going to go live with our episodes with our guests. You have a great chance to ask questions, live questions to the people that we're interviewing. And at the end of every episode, if we got questions, we're going to throw them up there to the coaches and have great conversations, and love to have dialogue with you guys live on those episodes throughout the whole thing, as well as we're going to be monitoring it. But as soon as we're done with those episodes, we're going to take them down and release these things on Wednesdays as we normally do in part 1, part 2. And as always, YouTube's going to be the full episode video on there. But I know I said we're going to release them on Wednesdays, and I'm late this week, and I'm not apologizing. The turkey was really good, especially that stuffing. My wife can cook like the best of them. So we're going to release this today. Hopefully everybody had a great Thanksgiving, and I'm sure everybody's Christmas lights are getting up and getting ready for that holiday season. I know we are here at my house because we respect the turkey. And then next day after Thanksgiving, let the Christmas joy begin. So we look forward to that. Look forward to interacting with all you guys, and hopefully you enjoy part 2 with Coach Ian. And like I said, go follow us on all of our social media accounts so that we can you can see when that's where we'll post when we're going to go on live. We'll be live next week with our next guest, and just excited to be back this winter, getting going, talking some baseball. We're only a few months away, man. Baseball season will be here before we know it. So let's go ahead and start in with part 2 with Ian Sanderson. Our listeners keep going up and up. And for anybody new that's joining the podcast right now, please drop your comments, questions, concerns in the little link over here. And when we wrap
Give me
this
some
up,
concerns. Lots of concerns.
Lots of concerns,
please.
Questions, anything, funny stories about Coach if you're watching that you are familiar with them. And we will have a listener recap here at the end of this thing. But, talking about that and getting to this point in the season with their coaches, and if Jason and Kelly, if you guys aren't ready to move on, jump in now. But the world of recruiting these days, and things have changed so much, and I feel like in such a short period of time. Maybe we'll start off with this thing, the impact of the portal for the NWAC. Like, how has this changed? Because we're going through it now with trying to find high school guys spots to go. and just I feel like everything's starting to trickle down and seeing where everything's at.
It is. I think we're a few years, obviously a few years behind where Division I is at. Right now, it's getting tough to find guys homes as they move on. It's getting easier to find an abundance of players that are at the high school level that we kind of can hand pick and choose a little bit more. But we also have to be mindful at our level of in and out. Is getting guys out is just as important because that's part of our reputation as well as winning, developing guys, and getting them moved on to the right programs. And most kids want that Division I experience, and it's becoming a little bit tougher. And this year, I think, is the year that changes for the high school kid. Is a lot of kids are saying, I'm going to wait for that D1 opportunity. What they don't realize to a certain extent is in about a couple of weeks, that number is going to be cut down to 34 on that roster. And then there's another, if you have 302 Division I programs, that's another 1,800 kids back in the portal. And then they can go pick and choose again where they want to go, basically, because it's, the kid that played in the SEC, let's say last year, or even had a fall in the SEC, he's going to get an opportunity to go to a mid-major, and they're going to be ecstatic to have him because they got a kid that has some SEC experience. Or they decide, I want to go back to division or junior college. And so it's kind of a waiting. And I'd say this early period is now getting later for us as a whole. And I'd say it's mostly pitchers right now that are kind of doing the waiting. Position players, I think, are starting to see, that the roster sizes are just shrinking, and the number of freshmen in general are shrinking at the college level. And so it's becoming a dance that you have to be very fluid with. And things that we did 4 years ago, we can't do it the same way now. And so it's kind of trial by error a little bit. And it's also the players have a lot more power than they used to because of social media. They have more of a reach throughout the country. And it used to be when, back when I played in the early 2000s, you had to be seen. And if nobody saw you, then you didn't play. Mm-hmm. And so these kids have the reach to go out and, expose themselves to a school in Virginia or Florida. And so finding the balance of what's the right timeline to put on kids that you can also protect your program is a big one. And my opinion is, after seeing it go down this year, is waiting for the higher end, like arms specifically, is going to come down to the first window of signing period for the Division I level. And then we're going to see which way it goes. Do they start going to the Division II route, or they just start going to the junior college route? I still think there's a lot of questions about which way everything falls. So it's an interesting animal right now.
One thing I heard pop up, and if you're not privy to talk about it yet, feel free to ignore the question. But I heard a rumor that NWAC talking about percentage of year played for first year players to potentially get redshirt years like we see in college football right now. I think it's 4 or less games played in. Those guys can still be redshirt players, but do you have any knowledge of where that's at now and where that might be going for the NWAC specifically?
I do know about it. It's been talked about. I think there's a lot more layers of voting that has to go before it becomes a real thing. Mm-hmm. I think that we need to really look at the pros and cons of this as a whole for the NWAC before we jump into it, because I think there are some negatives and I think there are some positives with it. And that piece I'll keep to myself until I'm a little more advanced in the process to be able to talk about that. But yeah, I also don't know what with the portal, is that going to help a ton or is it going to hurt? I just don't really know.
Oh, yeah, I think with the one thing we know right now in recruiting is that with how much movement and things are happening, teams at the top levels trickling down are generally older than they have been before, right? I mean, just older players, whether that's former red shirts or medical red shirts or, purely just transfers moving around. There's benefit to being an older player, and being an older player, you're just physically more mature than the high school player is. And now you put a roster limitation further cutting down the developmental player that a Division I team would carry in their roster. And naturally, there's just more physicality and age at all levels of baseball. So you look at the high school freshmen that even if you work your tail off, a very small percentage have that physical maturity to be able to go in and compete with a 22-year-old, 23-year-old right away, right? So, I mean, personally, I could see that being a case that could benefit the player and being able to move on. But, I mean, you mentioned it too, being able to move players on has become harder because you're the same as everyone now, right? Before the Division I, having to sit out a year and doing that really swayed people from moving because it wasn't necessarily worth it. Unless it's a freshman, that could kick back to you and then move on after that. So the movement just wasn't there. So now you're competing with, like you said, the SEC. That's your competition, which is kind of funny. And if you think about it, like in recruiting, like you're competing with the SEC and the trickle down of that to be there. I think there's even more responsibility on coaches to develop that physicality piece to make sure that your players are looking the same as, what the kid from wherever, name the school, is trying to move on from.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so many unknowns.
Crazy.
Go
ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Kel.
No,
I was just going to say it is kind of a crazy time of life. I mean, just where we are in the game, and I think it's that triple down effect, right? And I think it even gets down to the high school kids. You get so many kids that want to go D1. I get it, but the reality is just so thin. I mean, it's probably much harder as it is now than it has ever been. So, Coach, what is some advice you could give to that high school coach that's listening right now? That he's got a senior, he's a pretty good player. I mean, what direction do they push him? Did you go to the 2-year aspect? Do you try to push him more into the 4-year? What do you got?
For me, it's finding the right fit for the player, and this is kind of the unconventional, I think, at our level thinking, is finding the right fit versus just focusing on a level. To me, the D1 or bust thought process is all fake. It's been put onto the kid, and he's forced to have that thought process. You can go be number 40 on the 40-man roster for a Division I that won 5 games last year, or you can come be number 6 or 7 at a junior college, or you can be number 10 at a Division II school and have a chance to compete at 2 of those schools versus not much of a chance at one of them. So it's, I think they see the NIL as something that's going to change lives. And at baseball, yes, there is some NIL, but football and basketball are getting most of that money. Baseball is the avenue to get you your education and pay that way to get through life, because most of us aren't going to be in the game of baseball forever. And, so we do a thing here, like at our level, getting your degree, your 2-year degree, moving on with a 3.5 or above puts you in a really good spot to be able to get a huge package put together on very minimal baseball money, which makes you a lot more recruitable. And so that's why, to me, it's just about fit. for high school players, it's about fit. You can go, like I said, go be number 40 on a 40-man roster and get 2 extra T-shirts and a pair of shoes and all that kind of stuff, or be a guy that gets to compete every day and has a chance to really play, and then possibly be at a better school than that Division I school that was there at high school. If you want to play pro ball, being a Division I school isn't the only way to get there. Being on the field is the only way to get you there.
Absolutely.
Kelly, you look like you got something to say before.
Yeah, I mean, the other reality of it too now is that, you know, you could move a guy on to a Division II, Division III NAI school. He goes off. He could very well be Division I player senior year now. Like that stuff firmly exists. And I think, Ian, you hit it with, like, you got to, as you climb, you have to be at a place where you're in the mix, right? That's the top 12 hitters. It's the top 8 to 10 arms. Like, you have to be in that mix in order to be successful. And not that like you're going to necessarily start there at all times, like by your sophomore year at a junior college, by your upperclassman year at a 4-year school, like you got to put yourself in that spot to be in the mix. And I think the mindset's changing a little bit now to that, hopefully. And I know we parade that around a lot in what we talk and what we preach.
Because there is so many good programs that are not just Division I programs, right? Even in the Northwest, I think there's. I mean, you can go look at Northwest Nazarene last year, massive run, Division II school. Busnell and Lewis and Clark State NAI schools, right? Naming a few of them, and then Central's always got a chance to be phenomenal. And it's just there's so many good schools, and it just goes back to. The Twitter post is not as important as being on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope we're in that shift, like you said, changing the mindset a little bit.
Always chasing the clout. You want the easy way, not the hard way. And, I think that there's a lot of players that don't work out if they're taking on that mindset that once I get to that next spot, I'm good. I can sit back. I got it in the bag. I've done it. Mission accomplished. Done.
That's even worse.
BC, your turn. Let's go. You're ready. We're ready.
Just having that conversation with guys lately too about like, go find where you're going to play. I always told my guys that, hey, first off, is the coach? Is he a good dude? Is he a trustworthy guy? Does the school have what you're going to go study, and can you see yourself living in that town? Granted, it's a full day job of what you're doing, but I think it's even more important that exactly what you're saying. Go where you're going to play. You're not going to get if your goal and aspirations are to move on after college baseball, you're not going to find it right in the pine somebody or somewhere. And even with the way the portal works and everything, it doesn't matter what level you go to. Like it's just a whole beast, man.
Yeah, and it's if you're coming to the 2-year level, it's all about getting your academics straight in a cheaper environment. First off, because you're not paying as much as you would at a 4-year institution, and finding out what you want to do, and then getting more physical and getting on the field. One thing I do pride ourselves on is we have a 3, 4, 5 team GPA since I've been here at Tacoma. Most of our guys are getting a lot of academic money, which helps create them to be more recruitable. And, we had one of the better hitters, if not the best hitter in the NWAC last year. He got multiple offers, visits, and he went with the one that he just felt like he was going to be in the mix. Even though he's going to a Division I school, he went right into the mix, and they gave him a good offer, and he's as of right now, he is in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
And he had that quote unquote bigger school and more high profile schools that were kind of in on him that offered him, but he didn't feel like there was the same amount of opportunity for him.
For sure. Do you see fall signings right now kind of, I don't say plummeting, but do you think that there's been quite a decrease in NWAC guys fall signing now?
Yeah, I do. Obviously, there's going to be a couple arms here and there that always go early. And the position players have always kind of gone a little later in general in the NWAC. For whatever reason, that's just the way it's gone. But this year it's more about I'm receiving more of, hey, can you send your guy to this junior college camp in January or December instead of, hey, let's sign him. Let's get all that stuff right now. So we've got a couple arms that are profile as Division I pitchers, and none of them have gotten any offers right now because they're all getting the same thing of, I need to be at this camp. Can I go to this camp? Do I love that? No, but that's also the part of the world we're in right now. And at the junior college level is, hey man, yeah, we'll get you ready for that. So I do think it's going down, and I think it's going to be a couple of years before we see that change back to a few more early signings.
What about the junior college player mindset? Do you feel like, and this is holistically speaking, but like there's so many guys we talked about, going to junior college for that promise of Division I after that. Do you feel like there's more of a shift? You feel like you have to coach guys up a little bit about, the percentages of guys moving on or the perception of where that's at? Like, you have to prep them early that, like, hey, we're going to find the best opportunity, and no matter what, and it might not be a Division I school. And how is that kind of let down for some of those guys? I don't want to say let down, but like, I don't know, just process of realizing where you're at.
Yeah, no, it is a little bit of a letdown for guys when you have to have, that's one of the tougher things, is having some real honest conversations with young men that tell them, hey, this is where we see you right now. These are the only guys that are getting phone calls for the Division I opportunities. So it's time for us to open our horizons up a little bit. And we start that in middle to late September for our sophomores. We put together Google Sheets, and they have access to it. And I let them know who I've been talking to and who they talk to. And, I can pull it up right now and see everybody. I tell them to add their dream schools on there too. Give me 2 or 3 your dream schools, and then have 5 to 10 realistic schools to start with. Guys feel uncomfortable putting their dream schools on there, which I find a little bit weird. Like, what's the worst they can say is no? Okay. And then you find the right spot to go. And I think guys are also getting a little bit more nervous at this level because of that lack of early signing period, signing guys. And they're like, well, so-and-so had signed early last year, and I'm on the same path as him. Yeah, but it's different year. It's different timing. It's different everything. And so we're pretty fluid with having the conversations, and we talk to guys and we tell them exactly where we see them. And we say, hey, we'll reach out to, the Vanderbilt for you, but the odds of you going there are super slim. So don't be shy. Don't be upset when they say no. But hey, in the same note, there's 3 Division II schools that really are interested, and they're ready to give you as much money as they can. It's time to start looking down that road as well. So for me, it's a blend of, don't fully cut the dream off of Division I, but start to open up their thoughts a little bit more, a little bit quickly.
That's the tough part on us too. I mean, everyone on this call right now has a hand in, moving players on. The other part, and I don't want to say reputation, but I mean, for lack of a better term, reputation, like you can't call the Vanderbilt for 35, 40 guys, right? Like you have to pick and choose when you're making your shots and making your calls. And, and we get it wrong. Like, we ain't perfect. Like, guys will end up being a lot better than we thought they could be. And those are the stories that you love, right? I kind of love being the coach that, you saw that he was good, but like, dang, he was that good. Good for him for putting in that work and doing what he could to get where he wanted to be. But yeah, that's the tough part too, is having those conversations with an open mind, and not that you want them to be humbled, but I think everyone has their timeline, and you should. and and as long as you're doing it before, August 1, there really isn't a too late. You can find spots at certain times. It might not be the money that you like, but have a realistic time window and share that with coaches and recruiting too. I mean, I don't poo-poo anyone. I think we've all said that on here. Always treat every school with respect, and you can say a comment of, hey, right now I'm researching other opportunities, but I'd really like to keep you guys in mind if something opens up later on. I'd love to reach back out. But there's a right way to do that to make sure you're not closing any doors. But at the end of the day, you have to be realistic about what your timeline is and really, really trust the people, multiple people in your corner to give you honest feedback, right? I think the more people you can have that are doing that, the better.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that get, I don't know how to say this the right way. They like to put their name on things, and so they push people in the wrong direction instead of really taking the young man and his family's wants and needs into consideration. And so I think being able to talk to coaches and not push certain levels away is a learned attribute that you can have inside of recruiting as a player. Because if you just flat out tell me, hey, I'm only looking Division I, okay, well, it's the middle of November. How many Division I offers do you have? 0. Okay, then what are we waiting on? They're not coming. I mean, and then so it's just, like you said, making sure you have the right people in your corner. And making sure that, I don't ever offer a kid any scholarship until mom and dad are on campus or have been on campus, because they're just as important in the process. They're giving their trust for us to help change their young, teenager into young adults. And so there has to be that trust that goes on there as well. And if, and I want them to feel comfortable as much as the player feels comfortable. And so that's another thing, is getting mom and dad and sitting everybody in one room and telling them everything that needs to be talked about. Hey, here's where we're at in the timelines. Here's where I think it goes. Now it's time for you guys to go. Here's all the information. Here's the paperwork. Now go talk to whoever you need to talk to together as a family. And sometimes it works in our favor and sometimes it doesn't.
Yep. Always want guys that want to be at your school. Those are the right players. They want to be there. They're all in. They want to be coached. They want to get better. Guys that are half in or committed by a deadline or something else arbitrary, always going to be looking over their shoulder. Those are tougher guys to get in your corner for sure.
Well, Coach, let's kind of move ourselves to the bullpen here in a little bit, and as we kind of close out this thing and just talk a little bit of pitching here. So
don't forget, listeners, drop your questions in the chat. Okay, sorry, go Jason.
Oh, you're fine. Yeah. So what kind of, for those young high school guys right now, we're sitting here near the end of November, and we'll kind of move into the college aspect too, but it's big time on the high school side, because you got a lot of coaches out there. They don't know what to do. They either got a kid over here paying money to get some training in, or they saw some YouTube video or some sort, but what kind of advice could you give that high school coach to kind of get his players, kind of in the rhythm of getting ready for March 1?
Yeah. The first thing I would ask the player is, when was the last time they competitively threw? When do you need to be ready? And so and then you map it out backwards. For me is, so if they're not till March, you could start in the next month and start building up. And then you got, November, December, January, February. By February, you're on the mound having some live at bats and ready to go. That's the very simplistic way to think about it. But it's also knowing, hey, did this kid play football? Is this kid going to play basketball? At our level, we don't have to worry about that really for the most part. But for high school coaches, I think it plays a factor. Do we start the kid throwing who just played two-way as a football player, or do we give him a little break to get rested up a little bit, and then start him on a little bit more of a plan? So it's knowing your guys, I think, is just as important as knowing what to give each kid. If he's going to play basketball, then you're going to have to work around certain timing things. You're going to have to work around that kind of stuff. But don't rush is the biggest one. Our guys get a couple weeks off after the fall season, and then they take a couple weeks where they're building back up, where they're not touching the mound competitively. They're doing some plyo balls on the mound, stuff like that, but they're not up there, ripping 90-mile-an-hour fastballs and sliders at hitters. They have 2 days, so their first 3 weeks of their buildup, they only have one high-intent day a week. The rest is just loose, easy actions. And so then you start to build up where it gets a little higher intent. They'll have scripted bullpens as they come back. So everything's mapped out for them. For us, it's a little easier because we knew what they did all fall. For you guys, it's at the high school level, it's a little bit tougher because you're also hoping that they did what they said to a certain extent. Right. And so that's a little bit tougher because you got to take a lot of what they say as with a grain of salt, but you also don't want to call a kid dishonest in any aspect. So I would say it's you build up a longer leash than you think you need. And they don't need to be on the mound in December. They don't need to be competitively pitching in December. And if March 1 is the first game, you should be built up to about 60 pitches at that point. Live and aggressive. So it's just knowing what you guys are doing and building backwards from the day you need them, and having a number of pitches that you want to throw a guy day one. For us, our starters are only going to go 80 pitches in weekend one. That's the max they're going to get to. A couple of our relievers will be around that number if they have to get to that level. But we're not going over 80, and that's perfectly fine. And then the next week is 85, and the next week is 90. And then 95, and then it's kind of up to the game to decide when they're done throughout the next weeks. But they're still building as they hit game one, which I know is a little tough for high school age guys because the season's so much shorter. Mm-hmm. But so maybe you back that number up of when you want them to start high intently a little bit earlier into maybe say the end of November, early December. So it's all just about what you want and what your numbers are.
Does the numbers change for you? Say, and I don't know if your guys are throwing outside all winter long or not, but from throwing inside and then your first bullpen outside, are you adjusting that at all?
So our bullpens, you'll get up to higher numbers. And then when you go into games, we lower that number because the intensity creates fatigue. So let's say, our guys have to come back ready to throw a 40-pitch live outing on, I think it's January 16th. Their bullpens, they're building up to 85 pitches. So they're at 85 and they come back and their outing is only 45 or 40 pitches, excuse me. Because the intensity changes what the fatigue factor is. And then we start lowering, once we go higher intent, we start lowering the number in the bullpen and start going up on the live.
Makes sense. How are you monitoring over winter break? Is it purely just a pitch plan that you hope that they follow? Is it, do you have check-ins? Do you have check-ins? How does that kind of work for you?
So we sit with guys in our exit plan, and Coach Hatton and I sat with all the pitchers. We asked what they needed, what they felt they needed, because I like to get their input for a couple of reasons. One, I don't know really how their body feels because I'm not inside of their body. Two, it's their career. My career is long and over with, so they need to have some logical input on their career. And ultimately we'll give the best advice that we can that we think is going to be the right move. But we put a whole plan together. We put what they're doing on each day for, I think it's 10 weeks. And we hopefully at this level, they know this is what's going to get them there. And we'll touch base on a text message because we really can't do a lot of baseball communication during that December time period. We can check in on them, but hopefully it's a lot of putting together the plan and crossing your fingers that they get it done.
That's it. Do you have like you mentioned your player leadership too, that kind of plays into it too. I'm sure you have some semblance of a group chat that's coach centric and one that's player centric. And, if you have good leaders checking in with guys throughout the winter, that's sometimes the best way to do it. Photos from wherever you live, whatever facility you got, getting some work in, firing up the boys. They want to be back together.
Yeah, we have a good group of sophomores that, hey, make sure you get your stuff in today. Let me know that you finished or what you're doing. And then hey, coach, so-and-so's not getting it done. So I only hear when guys aren't getting things done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really hear about guys getting their job done, is what we call it, doing your job. We just hear the guys that don't do it. And so we have a good couple of third-year guys that really taken the reins, redshirted their freshman year. And we have a couple of freshmen that are actually have really tried to take the reins a little bit and have pushed those sophomores to be better leaders. So I think this year will be a lot different. I think we're going to let the players handle a lot of it, to be honest.
That's great. Yeah, player-driven leadership is always what we're striving for. Yeah. Player says it before the coach does. We all win.
And we keep a little bit more of our hair.
Hair.
What's hair? I'm there.
It's going quickly.
Only one without a hat, though. No shame. No shame in that game.
Well, Coach, I got it. This is the one comment we have to end with here. We didn't get a lot of questions here, but we used to have JUCO bands for life, baby. And I was there too. JC guys, where we were at from athletes angling. But Coach, do you want any final parting thoughts for anybody? Maybe a funny story for us or anything?
Funny story.
Give me your best Eddie Smith story that he'd want you to tell.
That he would live.
Well, I can tell this one because he remembers it better than I do. So I've known Eddie since we were 10, maybe, and his dad and my uncle were good friends. So Eddie and I played against each other from, I think, 12 or 11 or 12 is when it started, all the way through high school and then 2 years of junior college. I still think he's making part of this story up, and I'm going to stick to that. I think we were 12 or 13, and I hit him with a pitch, and he had to go to the hospital. And that night, I don't remember this part of it, and this is where I think he's kind of making it up. My mom made me call and check in on him to see if he was okay, because he was friends with my uncle. And so years later, when I'm interviewing to join his staff at Lower Columbia, he brings this story up. Says, do you remember breaking or hitting me with a pitch and either breaking my ankle or I had to go get x-rays. And I said, no, I don't. And he goes, yes, your mother made you call and apologize and check in on me. And I said, that doesn't sound like my mom. But apparently I had to because they were friends with my uncle.
Oh, that's good.
Well, let's just hope looking back that you would have made that phone call today as a 12-year-old self of yours.
I don't know. Probably. Yeah. I might have sent a text message.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, man.
Well, Coach,
Ian, I bet you got, real quick, I bet you got a good fan story for us to close this out. Knowing that you coached in Canada, I've had some time playing in Canada, and those Canadian baseball fans are something else.
They are some of my favorite people to be around. The Canadians don't care what level you're at, what school you're at. We had guys from, when I was in Victoria, we had guys from University of Texas, from LSU, and the entire crowd's favorite player was a kid named Dustin Miller, and I'll never forget this kid, from Chico State. He had the best walk-up song, and he would get the 2,000 to 5,000 that were there each night up on their feet, dancing every time that he came to the plate. And every night that he played, he wasn't one of the better players, so he was a platoon guy. And every time that he played, there was fans standing outside of the locker room entrance, ready to hand him beers to go out, walk down the street to go wherever he wanted to go. I can tell it now because he's 25 years old, but they would sit next to, in Victoria, there's no blocking from the coaches area to where the fans are. And they would sit there and, hey, do you want a beer in the middle of the game? Do you want a hot dog? They would just get on guys. And it didn't matter. Like I said, if you were from, you just won a World Series in the College World Series, or you were a junior college guy, it did not matter. They loved you and they heckled you regardless. And even the kids, I remember in Victoria, my first year, we had elementary day. So there's 7,000 elementary kids in this stadium, and they're just ripping into every player that you could think about for any possible reason. And then they're like, hey, can we get a baseball? And then the kids ask for something. They're like, well, you've just been so mean to me. And the Canadians were like, well, play better then. I don't know what to tell you. But they don't care. And I love that part of it up there. And especially Victoria. Victoria is a very special place to play and be. It's not as fun as an opponent, but it's a good place to be a hometown guy up there.
Love it.
Baseball's the best. That's for sure.
Some days.
Well, yeah, that's quite mean too. Yes, that is correct. Well, Coach, thank you so much for taking an hour out of your night tonight to come on the podcast and join us. We really, truly appreciate it.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you guys. Thank you. It's been fun.
This has been awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Good luck this season, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, guys.